I'm ready.
Right. I'd like to call the meeting to order. It is 7:01 p.m. The Board of Managers regular meeting for Riley Purgatory Bluff Creek Watershed District. My name is Bonnie Nelson. I'm the Vice President. I am sitting in for President Pedersen, who is not here tonight. We have 4 other managers, so we have a quorum. All right. First topic is the agenda, to approve the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Second. A second. Have any discussion?
Vice President Nelson, Ben is with us tonight, and he is here for item 7G, which I would like to move to right after the accepting of the treasurer's report and paying of the bills. I'm sure he would love to spend his evening with us, but in the interest of getting him out of here. Also, that item right now is to authorize the execution of that cost share. But because it exceeds the threshold, we need to hold a public hearing for it first. So what I am asking is that it would be a resolution for the managers, order a public hearing to consider a cost share agreement with United
To
Properties.
take public comment.
To take public comment. Yep,
We want to move that where?
That'll be item B1.
one, yeah. So right after paying the bills.
And I would like to propose a modification to the agenda to add a discussion item about the format of our meeting minute contents. I noticed it changed significantly this time. And I feel like there's a room for us to have some capturing of the discussion. Like I know when our discussion items, we removed several items from the consent agenda. We never explained at all why we removed them or what we discussed. And so I'd like to have a little discussion about what we might want to see for agenda minutes.
Thank you. I appreciate that because I had a concern on one issue too.
Okay, so that would be discussion item 8C, to add a discussion of meeting minutes.
So I'll take those as friendly amendments to the approval of the minutes.
As well.
So I don't know who's second. Yeah.
Okay, so do we have
So
all those in
Tony,
favor of approving the agenda with the change for the item G to be 1 and additional discussion item, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposition. The agenda is approved. The first one, matters of public interest. Welcome to the board meeting. Anyone may address the board on any matter of interest in the watershed. Speakers will be acknowledged by the president. Please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. State your name and address for the record. Please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes. Additional comments may be submitted in writing. Generally, the Board of Managers will not take official action on items discussed at this time, but may refer the matter to staff for a future report or direct that the matter be scheduled on a future agenda. Is there anyone who wishes to speak tonight?
See, Mr. Lindquist and Mr. Cook both have their hands up.
All right, Mr. Cook, would you like to address
Yes.
the board?
Yes, Madam Chair, if I may proceed, I want to move quickly here. First of all, I want to address the items at the workshop. I think the idea of the district participating in the, what do you want to call it, the program to come up with dealing with salt as design is excellent, and we should be clearly participating in it. And given, I think, our participation in the salt reduction process that we did several years ago, I think participation by Mr. Jeffrey, et cetera, is really needed, and I think we can bring a lot to the table on that. The other thing I want to comment is about the workshop having to do with Lotus Lake in particular. As you know, I live on Lotus Lake. I want to make sure that's disclosed. I think we really need to have a study done of the phosphorus and the effects of the alum treatment And I like the idea of the proposed plan to expand the areas of treatment. I think that's really needed. But I do want to, I think, correct a little misconception. Mr. Bischoff, I'd like to have him contact Chuck Becker, which Manager Crafton mentioned. He's been on this issue of wake boats since wake boats came out. He is familiar with all the studies, particularly those in Wisconsin, New Hampshire, I think it's New Hampshire or Vermont, whichever one that is, and he can give the detail. And Madam Chair, you mentioned the fact that these studies were done before the biggest boats have come out, and it's significantly different. And I think for the record, based on what has been told to me, these wakes affect more than 500 feet from shore, and they go deeper than 20 feet. And what people forget is that the wakes created, there's the surface wake, but the most important thing is what I call the tsunami wake, because the wakes they generate go deep and they roll along the bottom of the lake. And therefore, I think it's important to have a study of the erosive effect of those wakes on our alum treatments, because as was stated, the district is spending good money on these alum treatments, and I want to encourage it. But I'd appreciate it if the board would authorize an extensive study on alum treatments and the effect of the wake boats. And with that, I will stop. Thank you very much for the opportunity to address you.
Thank you. Mr. Lindquist, would you like to address the board?
Yes, my name is Thomas Lindquist. I live at 16750 Baywood Terrace on the east side of Duck Lake, and I'm a member of the Eden Prairie Duck Lake Association. And I just wanted to put in a word of appreciation from our association, everybody who lives on or enjoys Duck Lake, for the treatment that was done this last year to reduce the Eurasian water milfoil in particular. So that was a great thing, both from an aesthetics point of view and from a practical point of view, because some of us have small boats that easily get encumbered if there are significant amount of aquatic vegetation. And that, compounded with the lake level as it is at this time, is a problem. So I'm hoping that there'll be a repeat treatment, because last October we did have some difficulties with our small boats, and I'm hoping that another treatment is in the works. And if so, I thank you very much again. Thank you.
Do we have any other public comments?
Seeing any?
I don't think. The next thing is reading and approval of minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the February 5th workshop and the February 5th regular meeting as written. I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye. No opposed, the approved. The next item is committee and member reports. We will adopt a resolution at the end for receiving all the reports. Is there somebody here from the CAC?
I am Bonnie Sharon McCotter.
Sharon McCotter, welcome. She's
Hello.
remote, so if we can, are we going to be able to see you, or is this voice only?
I'm clicking, but nothing's happening, so I'm not sure why that is.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Camera would be the trick.
Thank you.
Okay.
Clicking
good to
things.
see you.
Yeah, good to see you guys. We had a really, I'll start with just a summary of our CAC meeting last Monday, or Monday, February 24th. It was just excellent. We started with Terry led us on an exercise, and Liz helped him, and it was we paired off 2 people, which was great because gave us a chance to, I worked with someone I never met before, and so we had a chance to work together, which was great. And like she said to me, Marcia said, it was, I really feel safe. And I thought that was a good thing, a good comment for a new person to feel comfortable in a group setting like that and to speak out. So we paired off, we discussed how each of the watershed's goals that you guys had already come up with, how they correlated to the purposes in the 103B.201 Metropolitan Water Management Program, the purposes. And then after the meeting, Liz did a really great job and put a summary table together of each of the goals and then which of the purposes, how they correlated together. And we were really happy to see both the depth and the breadth of the projects and everything pretty much tagged up. So we ran out of time. It was a great discussion. I think some of the things that I thought were really great were also that because it was kind of informal, it allowed for everyone to get clarification and discussion. And if you didn't understand why someone else said it, you had an opportunity to just talk about it. So it wasn't it was organized, but it wasn't so formal that it prohibited us to learn and discuss. And I think everyone came away with more clarification about the projects. And in my opinion, I think we all learned something. I mean, I didn't poll everyone there, but I would say that everybody at that table came away and learned something. And I think that's great. So really looking forward to the EHAP session. I think that's going to be either March or April. Terry's going to lead us, so that'll be great. Bottom line is we kind of postponed everything else for the meeting. Andrew wasn't there. And so I think a lot of people would like to see him again, just my opinion, but I think a lot of people would like to see him be the president again. So we delayed the officer selection. And then Andrew was also the guy that went to your meeting last time. And so he didn't have an update. And so we'll get that update as well. So we did shorten a few things on the agenda, but I think it was well worth what we got out of it. So, and we didn't have any resolution. We didn't tackle any other business. That was our primary thing. So any questions from anyone?
Anyone have any comments for Sharon?
Let's say, I agree with Sharon. It was a great meeting, so.
Yeah, so I'll expand on it a little bit. What the exercise was, so in 103B and 103D, there are the purposes that watershed districts have. A lot of the conversations that have been surrounding it with legal, with other people is kind of our objectives that we have identified fit under those purposes. And I think what this exercise showed is that there was a consensus that yes, they did. These objectives that we have identified are consistent with the purposes.
It's going to take us down the road toward the sonar too. The
Yep.
statement of need and reasonableness. So
Well,
Yeah.
thank you for your efforts and thank the CAC for your efforts. That'll all help keep informed the process and keep you apart to help advise the board. Appreciate it.
Will do. And can I just throw out one thing for the conversation you had on the on collecting any of the data? I think there'd be people on the CAC that would love. I know I would love to get on my kayak and go out there, Bonnie, with you. So, if you want to do that and we're available, and I think there's others. Marilyn loves kayaking as well, and so, I don't know the 3 other new people very well. We're just learning them, but I think it's a great opportunity to solicit them and sort of learn more as to why you're even doing it and why it's important. And that wakeboarding is such a new thing. I mean, it'll be good to get more information as we go. So,
Okay,
That's a great idea.
that's a great idea. We will. Thank you.
all right. Thank you. Thank you.
thanks, Sharon.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have anything for us that I was supposed to bring back?
No, we
Forgot.
did not have anything for you. Could you state your name for the record? I'm not sure I don't remember if you did that.
Sharon McCotter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item is the administrator report. Anybody have a comment on that?
Well, it wasn't January 8th, 2025.
24.
I just wanted to highlight that I appreciated that you've got that capital outlay over the next 12 months that I know Manager Duvall's been talking about working on and that you're going to be actually invest some of their portfolio. So I was very pleased to see that moving forward and coming to fruition.
Be nice to do, yeah.
Anybody
The
else?
only comment I had was on the timing. It came just today, right?
It
Yeah.
did come just in. Yes.
A little sooner would be better.
Yeah, I'll talk to you after the meeting, but I was having some health issues last week that
Okay. That explains it. So Just a comment in general on the reports. I think it's really good to see the reports. I mean, it's good to hear people talk about the different components, but I think it's good to see the summary of kind of what everybody's doing and perspective. And I think in your reports, you've got the less than or greater than and a time period. So again, it gives us an idea of timing of the things that you're talking about. So I like that a lot.
As well as some accountability for me.
Very good. I think, I was really pleased with how many staff people are getting involved in a lot of these other professional collaborations or whatever you want to call them, but everything from the Natural Shore Partnership to, I mean, Zach's and some stuff and Josh is some stuff and was Andrewson. I'm trying to remember who all was involved, but it was great to see us participating at that level.
Are we still on the administrator report?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was on the staff report.
So I'd like to move to the staff report.
I have comments after she does. Did you have some more comments?
Go ahead.
So I have a couple comments. So there's been a lot of discussion about DEI at the federal level. I'm just wondering if that's impacting any of our activities at the watershed in any capacity other than just irritation.
Chair Nelson, managers. So I have actually had some discussions with Mr. Welch, legal counsel, about if the federal executive orders have any impact on us. Apparently other watersheds have been concerned about that as well. My understanding is no. The state, we're working under, operating under a state charter, our charter, and that's that, unless Mr. Smith has anything different on that. This will become very important as we move forward because we really need to update the personnel handbook. It's got to get done. That is very outdated. So that will be a big part of it as well in there, but no, should not impact
Okay.
us.
A couple more comments. This is on the regulatory program. Sounds like you and a number of staff and Council Welsh have been working to update the regulatory program. Just curious if there's anything on the horizon regarding what that is. And I noticed that the partners that the city of Minnetonka is not included in that. On the listing, it has Chanhassen, Eden Prairie, University of Minnesota, DNR, and Carver County.
Must have inadvertently gotten deleted because they're definitely a part of that.
Okay. So is there anything more you can say about what's going on?
We will be having a workshop. I'm thinking it'll be May or June where we will start discussing the rules with this body. Again, we will be looking at the, I don't want to say low hanging fruits, but those changes that we have talked about that won't have larger implications as we go through the planning process. So then we would have to revisit and change those again. So one such thing being the flood storage issue that we always run into, that counts variance. That's something we could make a surgical change to that rule.
Okay. I guess another comment is the new website. I haven't looked at everything on it yet, but it looks really great. I think it's really improved. Has a much cleaner look to it and seems easier to follow.
Thank you, managers. I'm really pleased with it. The other thing that it does is it sends me a weekly report of compliance. So it audits me all the time of things that are on the website that might not be ADA compliant, might not meet some statute, so that I can go then revisit it. So that's been another nice change with what we've got going there.
And on page 8, talking about wetland management, you've had some meetings on regarding a database. I'm just curious what that's all about. Again, it's meeting with the different governmental agencies and cities. Talking about accessing the known existing wetlands and identifying previous?
So there are a number of things involved in this. One of the biggest are that, so the Minnesota Routine Assessment Methodology 3.0 was no longer supported by the Board of Water and Soil Resources in its electronic form. So we as a district paid BAR, who did the original MinRam, to upgrade it. So we are working with the cities to allow them access to that database to utilize the updated MinRam form.
Okay. On the Riley Lake alum treatment and the data submitted for delisting, is that we threw it in the hopper and we're waiting now?
We will be waiting for 3 years is the process,
What?
correct?
It's a 2-year process and we're in the second year, so we should find out which,
Okay. On the Upper Riley Creek, have we, I don't see anything on the agenda tonight regarding that, but have we signed any kind of an agreement or was it?
So
It just stopped with the decant
No.
building thing?
So you have approved the modified agreement with the city of Chanhassen. We have not executed that yet. We're going to execute all of the agreements at one time. I'm having discussions with all private owners now. They've all been engaged. They've all received the agreement. They've all, 3 of them have approved it. One of them has signed it. We'll get those other 2 to sign it. And then there are 2 owners of 4 properties that I'm currently working with their legal department now to go through their private agreements.
So then the process is what?
So once we have those agreements in place, then we will solicit bids, bring those bids back for consideration of the board, whether to award and who to award the contract to.
So this is sort of the last biggest project in our 10-year plan.
Upper Bluff and Upper Riley are our last 2 biggest projects, yes.
I guess my last comment relates to Manager Crafton's comments about, it seems like the staff is really engaged in many, many different groups. So we're having a great impact on our community, I think, in terms of both us getting back information, but us getting out into the community, that we're really touching a lot of different bases. So I think that's really good.
I appreciate those comments. I don't think I need to say it. I think you've already said it enough, but I'm thrilled with our staff. I'm really proud of them and the work that they do and the knowledge that they bring to the table. So thank you for saying that.
No, I agree with that, because I think even, I mean, I'm not there and maybe I'm reading too much into it, but if there's a TEP meeting or something and Zach raises a question, he's put it out there. And so then somebody's got to take a look at that in one way or another. And it just seems like sometimes groups don't take action until somebody at least says something. And so then, but it just seems like from what I'm seeing from Bowser, that on the wetland stuff, that there's been some improvement and hopefully trying to get watershed district people, staff on TEP will be one of them.
That would be nice.
I'm worried because of chairing the wetland committee at Bowser. It just seems like everything's going toward banking, and I don't know what we can do about that, but I just think there needs to be a better look at hydrology and what's happened where you filled in the wetlands. And so what was that impact? I mean, it doesn't seem like banking is really the true answer. So trying to figure out how to have any impact, but they seem to be just kind of going ahead. So, but anyway, so anytime somebody like Zach or Josh speaks up in these different forums, I think it gets our perspective out there too. It's another reality check from our level on up, because they're pretty top down, it seems like to me. So thanks to you guys for doing what you're doing.
So there must be a half a dozen different groups in that last little section.
Oh, yeah.
And those are groups that I'm not familiar with, but they're out there.
Staff has been taking the initiative to find these groups. Mr. Nikolai came back to me, I forget where he was at, but he said, hey, there's this shoreline group. I would like to get involved in it. So,
Minnesota Natural Shoreline
Yeah.
Partnership.
Yeah.
So who is that made up of? You know, or
It's a number of different entities, watershed districts, agencies. It's a loose consortium, but anybody is welcome to join it that's involved in shoreline management.
Well, and that's another place. So when I was at the DNR roundtable, Emily Jabins was running that session, that track. But people that spoke up about how they were doing within their watershed districts, they were doing work on shoreline work. But they were saying there needs to be a state standard. There needs to be more state behind it because everybody's kind of doing it in isolation. So I don't know what your read on all that is, but it would be good to know that because it just seems like we need more guidelines or we need something to help support those of us that are doing those kinds of things. So,
I would like to get back to the staff report. This is great discussion.
sorry.
but-
go ahead. Sorry.
Did you have not, did you have any comments?
I don't have any comments.
Okay,
on the staff report.
And I just, the item that hasn't been discussed was the lake level monitors that you were talking about. That for the city of Chanhassen and provide them the ability to monitor high water level ordinances easier. I strongly support that. I know the ones we had, there was a lot of discrepancy, partly because of some issues with the monitor, but also if we can do it so that it reads in the same amount of significant digits as the ordinance would make it a lot clearer as to compliance.
Yeah, so they will have access to it to put on their website and they will be able to display it how they want to display it. And we'll have our readings. So yeah.
Just with a thought to that, if it's, as also the
Remember,
accuracy of the
we
monitor.
don't care about their ordinance though. I mean, so we take our data in the way we take it in. So
Understood.
they'll be able to put it on their website, how it fits with their ordinances.
I know that a lot of our constituents look at that and they care about it, so.
Yeah.
All right. Any comments on the engineer's report?
I will comment on our engineer. He was not here tonight, as you've noticed. He had an emergency that came up and he had to address it. So I will try and bumble my way through the variance as well as I can. Hopefully between myself and Mr. Smith, we'll be able to address it appropriately.
And I did not have any comments for once on the engineer's report. Any comments on the regulatory report?
Well, Matt's still on this one.
Pardon?
Matt's doing.
Yep.
Okay.
Great.
Right. Do we have a resolution to adopt receiving the reports?
So I'd like to make a motion to adopt the resolution 2025-019, receiving the committee reports.
Second.
Right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Confirm a board representative for March 17th, 25 meeting. I can actually make this one, so I'll volunteer.
Okay. I believe Mr. Maxwell will be presenting at this next CAC meeting.
Next item is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is considered as one item of business by resolution. Does anybody want to remove any items from the consent agenda?
I'd like to talk about that. Pig ate my pizza, the 2024-061
So
question.
can I make a motion to approve the consent agenda and get a second, then we can go to the discussion?
Mhm.
It's up to you.
Yes. That's
So I'd like to make a motion to approve or to adopt resolution 25-020 to approve the following items in the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Madam
Yes.
Chair,
Yes.
This is Louis Smith. If
Okay.
one of the managers has a desire to discuss any of the items on the consent agenda, that item is pulled
Yeah,
from consent and moves to action. So
So I'd like to pull
okay.
that particular one, 2024-016.
So
Or
item
6-1.
AI is pulled and added as is it under the new business,
It is.
under 7A?
7A.
New business, right there, item A.
Oh, item A, items removed from consent agenda. Okay. All right.
We vote on that amendment. I mean, that,
So do we have a motion to approve
We did that.
the consent agenda without item 1?
You can just amend it
Amend it.
if you accept that amendment.
I need a
Okay.
motion for that.
So I'd like to amend the motion on the floor to only approve resolution 2025-021 and 2525-023.
I'll second it.
Those in favor?
aye.
Aye. Aye.
And no, nobody's opposed, so that passes. All right. Next item is new business.
Oh, we still have to do the, oh yeah, new business.
But we want, so
Oh, item A would be the item removed from consent agenda, so the
Right.
Pig Ate My Pizza.
yeah, so this is in my neighborhood, and that's where I used to get my gasoline all the time. And I noticed that we're measuring a lot of things in the permit, but it wasn't clear to me that they'd done enough analysis or wasn't mentioned as to how much contamination from gas stations might be down below that and whether that would be a problem for groundwater or anything in the future. So I just wanted to get some
Yep.
clarification.
So, Chair Nelson, Manager Crafton. I'm just trying to catch up here. So in order to redevelop a gas station, they would have to go through phase 1 environmental site assessment. And that phase 1 environmental site assessment would indicate whether or not there was reason to suspect a plume of volatile organic chemicals. If that were the case, then they would go on to a phase 2. That phase 2 would be actually chasing any plume or finding the limits of contamination. Because there were not any reports of it, we have no reason to suspect that there are contaminants in that soil. This was reviewed by our legal counsel and did not feel that there was any liability of missing something of that nature. So I feel comfortable that both the engineer and the legal counsel have reviewed it and feel that the risk is minimal.
Okay, I guess I just wish that it had been mentioned because I remember when when they took that out and they redeveloped it, that area. I mean, they had to do that clay underground to seal that because there was so much, it had been paint industry or something.
Yeah.
And there was all those VOCs, volatile or organic chemicals in there. And so I just wanted to be sure that that was actually, so maybe Council Smith could speak to that.
Madam Chair, managers, I think the main point is that the district doesn't have jurisdiction over the question you're raising. So while certainly there are contamination site issues for, gas stations or similar uses, Mr. Jeffries described a process with a PCA where that's addressed. And I think those matters are often brought to our attention. But we typically, there's nothing in our rules that deal with evaluating contaminants.
So I need to go to the PCA and ask.
Yes.
Okay, I'll do it. Thank you.
Chairman,
We'll speak one more to that. Actually, I would even talk to Bloomington because under their MS4, they would have
Okay,
looked at that specifically.
okay. So they would have had to sign off on that at some point?
Yeah, on the design. So under the MS4 permit, it says you cannot allow infiltration in areas of known contamination.
Thank
So,
you.
Manager Duval?
Two quick questions on that. Did we get the 3495 replenishment of the permit?
Chair, managers, no, at this time, those are conditions of approval. So we are just conditionally approving this. Prior to releasing the permit to them, they have to meet those and then we would release the permit.
And I'm just wondering what a split tree trench stormwater facility is.
So,
Split a tree?
pardon?
Split tree trench.
So if you look,
Curious.
I will share my screen here and I will go through it quickly. All right. So I gotta put my glasses on. Oh, I got so much going on here. All right, so a tree trench is really a biofiltration basin where rather than it just being the parabolic bottom that you fill in with soil, you will actually over excavate and you'll put in a structural rock soil mixture in there so that your surface area for infiltration increases. So while the actual on the surface might look like that, at below surface like that.
Underneath.
The reason they're calling it split is because if you look at here, they're taking the water, they're forcing the water in two different directions within that tree trench to get two different
Okay,
areas.
thank you.
Did I get a motion?
So I'd like to make a motion to approve permit 2024-061 as written.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nope. Motion passes. Next item is accepting the treasurer's report and approving payments of the bills.
And President, I make the motion to accept the January treasury report to resolution 25-022.
Second?
Any comments?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Motion passes. Next item is B1, which is ordering of a public hearing. That was item G on our agenda. We have a gentleman here.
Yeah, I can speak to it. If you have questions, Ben, and I'm sorry, I forget your last name.
Kip.
Is here. He is the designer and contractor on this project. United Properties would be the owner of it. I will share my screen here and quickly go through this. So originally, the request tonight was to approve this grant, but in looking at the grant amount in the agenda setting meeting with Vice President Nelson, we recognize that we need to have a public hearing first. So what we're asking tonight is a resolution to order the public hearing at the April meeting to consider the grant or the cost share application and take public comment on it at that time. But I would like to go through what is being proposed with the managers tonight quickly. And since the applicant is here, if you have specific questions for the applicant, then he would be available. So.
Yep.
All right. Big in this for you? Okay. He approached us almost a year ago now about this site. This site is, it is a, where is it located exactly?
Shopping center. It's like 970 Prairie View.
Yeah. So it is a shopping center. It right now, there is islands out in front of the building that don't do anything. So he's proposing to convert those to biofiltration basins. But more importantly, he is going to, I'm seeing if there's an overall plan. All right, so this is the overall site location. The building right now, and actually this dovetails nicely into Mrs. Hack's presentation earlier. So these rough scuppers dump and then sheet flow across the parking lot, creating an iced up condition for the parking lot. So the proposal is to capture those roof scuppers in the area in front, create biofiltration basins, put in an under drain, tie that under drain into the storm sewer system, and then bring it out to discharge here to the east. And this area here, they will be putting in a pre-treatment basin and then discharging it into this area that's all going to be restored into native vegetation. On the south side, they're taking an existing curb cut that goes into just a green space boulevard and converting that into a biofiltration basin as well. When Ben approached us initially, he was very receptive to our suggestions. He met with all of the cost share board members, Seth from Carver County, myself, Eleanor met with him, made some suggestions, which he incorporated fully into this plan. So really we're gaining volume reduction, rate control, native vegetation restoration, ice management, winter management, chloride reduction, and overall beautification and native species plantings within it. I think it's an exceptional project and a great opportunity to work with a commercial property to get us on. Prior to this, most of our cost shares have been with private residentials or homeowners associations. So I'm rather excited about this project personally. I appreciated all of his effort and time. It's been a tedious process for him, but he has soldiered through and met every request we've had. Again, I'm not asking for anything tonight. It will be a $50,000 grant, which is our max award. It will be at we would hold the public hearing at our April meeting and then have a resolution of whether or not the managers want to award at that time. Eleanor is also on, and she is more intimately familiar with this than I am. So if you have questions for her as well, I'm sure she could answer them.
So is there a public hearing required for the one with Eden Prairie as well? Can we do those together?
With
Lori Hacks.
if they were to apply in time, we could do them together, but I don't think they'll have an application together in time
Okay.
for that.
Thank you.
So if I may make a comment, this seems like this is the exact kind of project we should be trying to figure out how to do everywhere. I mean, this could be a prototype. This seems really significant to me for dealing with what's transpired over the last 50 years in our watershed.
And Manager DeVell, I can't say that either Eller and I can take any credit. They came to us with the idea and accepted our modification. So yes, I think, that is another benefit that comes out of something like this is now we have something when we do go talk to another commercial property owner, say, look, this is what they did. You can talk to him about, he already did the legwork for you.
So staff,
Need a newspaper article for him.
staff, Eleanor, could you make any comments on this at all from your perspective?
Yeah, I would just echo everything Terry said. They've been super receptive to all of our feedback. They're really excited about the project just as much as we are, and really sprucing up this location. I don't know if you covered where it is exactly. It's if you're familiar with the Lunds and Byerly's in Eden Prairie. There's a Starbucks, I think a turnstile, quite a few. There's a Chase Bank over there. If that helps you familiarize the area, it's a great area. I'm really close to the Purgatory Creek, so it's part of the Purgatory Creek watershed. And yeah, we're just would love to get going on it. We're really excited about the project. Apologies if you can hear my neighbor being excessively loud.
Okay. Good. Resolution?
So
Madam President, I'd like to make a or motion to order a public hearing on the authorizing of, or public hearing to take public commitment on comment on cost share agreement between United Properties for the installation of native habitat restoration and rain garden project.
I'll second.
Did we get that resolution correct?
Yes, you did.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? No opposed. Motion passes.
Appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time.
Spent all your time on this.
All right. Next item is to consider a variance from the no net change in flood elevation for permit 2024-084. Engineer Jeffrey.
Oh, I only play one on TV. Okay, we will do our best to get through this. I will say that this has been a very long and iterative process between the City of Eden Prairie, Engineer Sobiak, and Mr. Welch to get through it. So I'm gonna bring up the permit. And since I don't have one of those really nice presentations that Engineer Sobiak always puts together, I'm just gonna go to the germane parts of this. First one being an actual site map of where we're talking about and why this project is being proposed in the first place. So, project is located. I should share it, then you'll be able to see what it is I'm talking about. Okay. A little bigger for you. Okay. So what we're looking at here. So this is Dell Road. This is Eden Prairie Road. We're currently up here. This is the Marshall property, last remaining large parcel to be developed in the City of Eden Prairie. Right here, the road turns to gravel and has dangerous sight lines. And so much for that. Has dangerous sight lines and curve radiuses. So with the development of the Marshall property, the City of Eden Prairie is going to upgrade this to an urban section road and adding curb and gutter, and they're going to realign the crossing of Riley Creek underneath this road. They have met all of the rules through a series of biofiltration features, but there is one rule they have not met, and that rule is the increase in flood storage. So they have, this is the table that shows existing and proposed elevations. And the one that is the problem is at the new Dell Road crossing. It'll work for a second. So you'll see at station 2247 in 1975 and 1924, they have increases of anywhere from just under 5/100ths of an inch, 9/100ths of an inch to, or of a foot to 4/10ths of a foot. They have gone through several other iterations of this to try and minimize that increase. And I will get to those shortly here. Got it. All right. 14. Okay, so they looked at 4 different iterations of this to try and minimize the increase in flood stage as much as possible. So they looked at replacing as is, just replacing the 72-inch RCP at its current location. Well, they could not, with that, they couldn't get aquatic organism passages. It didn't address any of the downstream erosion and scour issues, and it doesn't do anything to improve the safety of that because they can't change the alignment of the road bed. They looked at putting in two box culvert, 8x8 box culvert, but at a shifted alignment. So they keep it where it is, but they rotated it. Because right now, when the channel comes through, it comes in at a 45 and it exits at a 45. So it's not hydraulically, it's a bad design to not have scour downstream. So again, it didn't improve the safety, and they had trouble coming up with compensatory storage for the fill that had to be placed to do it. So then they looked at realigning it with the 12x8 box culvert. But the increase everywhere was going to be close to 7/10 of a foot with this. So that was dismissed. It didn't meet the minimal impact solution. Then finally, they went with the current proposal, the 10-foot by 8-foot box culvert. It does result in some increases that I showed you on that other page, but the minimal amount they could be. There is no infrastructure at risk. The engineer does not feel that it presents a greater risk of erosion by doing this. I think it is important to note that if they were getting permitted under the DNR permit, this would be allowed. There would not be an issue with this. But because our rule says no net increase in flood stage, it does not meet our rule, and they need a variance from that rule. We did ask the DNR if they would permit it. The DNR declined. They said, well, it fits nicely under your general permit with us. Why don't you keep it and permit it for us? So this was the minimal impact solution, as both Engineer Sobiak and Council Welch feel that they can come up with this. They have worked very hard and provided several iterations to get there. I do think overall it's going to improve the ecology, hydraulics, hydrology, and water quality in that area from the existing condition, which is a gravel road. Yeah.
Yeah, we walked that reach to update our creek restoration action strategy. This year we rewalked that section. That culvert is part of the reason why that section scores low. It's a deteriorated culvert. And then as Terry mentioned, the 45-degree coming in, the 45-degree going out, that downstream slope is completely eroded. There's a huge scarp there. So with a project replacing that, we would improve the infrastructure score within the creek restoration action strategy. So
Sorry. I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance. And I must be 15 years ago, I thought, hey, cruising along and I see Dell Road and I know where it comes out. And I decided, well, I'll go up the hill and it's a big shortcut from going on Spring Road. And you get up to the top of the hill and it's like all of a sudden you're on somebody's yard. It was a snowy day and gravel road and you're making like right and left turns around trees. And it's just, I don't know how they could even call it a road. I mean, I've seen much better looking gravel driveways.
Field approaches.
Yeah. So it needed to be done. And I'm surprised it's gone for this long without having been done. And, when you make a real road, you have to have a real culvert and that kind of thing. So I don't see the variance as being significant. Like Terry said, the whole project is a big improvement, not only from a safety standpoint, but also from a water quality standpoint. So
I second the motion, and I've ridden it on my bike the last couple of years, and it's a treacherous road to ride on.
Yeah, you're hoping nobody's coming the other way because you don't know if the gravel would even hold two vehicles side by side.
Did you say you seconded?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe we had a motion and a second. Is there discussion?
Yeah, so Josh, so this will prevent the scouring is kind of what you're saying then? Improve it.
Improve that condition.
yeah,
You just shut off your mic. It stays on when you
Oh,
bike.
sorry. Yeah, it'll improve it should improve the downstream erosive forces coming out of that culvert because the 245s are causing a lot of issues. So,
Okay.
Yeah, in essence, it comes out of the culvert straight into the escarpment on the other side. And now they're turning it so it's aligned with the channel and sinking it so that it's got a naturalized bottom.
Okay. And in terms of anything with the water crossing habitat or critters or fish?
yeah, with the buried partial culvert, like Terry mentioned, it'll improve habitat connection at that site as well. So currently the culvert is rusted out extensively. So
Thank you.
And with it, I don't know, Manager Ziegler and Manager Crafton, you were both here at the time when the private property owners, where that little spur goes off to the left on the drawing, that's that they came in asking for us to replace their culvert there. It's going to be replaced as part of this project as well. And that is a corrugated metal pipe that is actually displaced underneath the driveway by about 1.5 feet. So there's no fish passage or anything through that. So they're improving 2 spots with this project.
So it's all win-win, even though it's a variance.
It really is, yes.
So all those in favor of the motion to approve the variance, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, motion passes.
Now we have to pass the project.
But now it's the actual permit itself.
All right, item D, I have a motion to approve permit 2024-084.
Also move.
One second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, vote aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, none. Aye. Motion passes. I vote. All right, item E, resolution 25015, establishing the watershed stewardship cost share policy. A motion?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution 25-015, establishing the watershed stewardship cost share program.
Second it.
Any discussion?
Anybody else?
Manager Crafton.
Okay, so I had problems with part of the language. It just seemed a little harsh. Especially the part about 12 months to install a project. Now, I understand we want things done in an expedited way, but depending on when it gets started and depending on the variables and whatever nature's doing at the same time, it just seemed, nature just doesn't always cooperate. And when you're trying to do a project or you're trying to get more of this kind of stuff in the ground, which I think is hugely important, especially what I'm seeing with our federal agencies and the funding that's coming, I think the more we can do this kind of thing, the more success we're going to have, because it's just treacherous what they're doing federally.
Cost share extension is a very easy extension to get. It amounts to sending an email to Eleanor saying, can we get another? And then they give us what they wanted to.
Okay.
And it's extended. So,
All right.
yeah, we've never not extended one unless they change something entirely.
Right.
So,
I can understand trying to up the standards and make sure they use the native plants and doing all that. I think that's all great. I just wanted to make sure that we were being practical.
yep, no, we grant extensions all the time. Sometimes their materials aren't available. Sometimes the weather doesn't cooperate. There's a lot of reasons. So, but it's a
Okay.
easy extension to get.
All right.
There is one table that, as it's shown in here, I would like to talk you through that it's going to be a little different. So when we met the last time and went through this, we had nonprofit, school, how did we have it? We had nonprofit and school in different categories, which didn't make sense. What is a nonprofit? I mean, St. Hubert's would be a nonprofit.
Do you have school with government?
Yeah, so well, we're proposing something entirely different than even what's shown here. And that would be to move all of them into one column. We would make the maximum 50,000 for all of them and use the 50% award. And the 1,500 portion be 75%. And the reason 50,000 may seem like a lot, people who get to 50,000 are usually doing a very big project like what we had. So typically they would come in and $18,000 or $24,000 or whatever, and that's all they would get awarded. So we're not saying everybody's going to get a 50,000, but it makes it easier. We don't have to try and differentiate between a church and a target. We can just treat those all as the same. So that's the one thing that's shown in this that I would propose be just the two columns, residential, which is existing lot of record, and everything else, basically.
Okay, so is this a reduction in benefits like to?
It actually is
like
an
to a city?
increase.
Okay,
It's, the government would say the same, and everybody else would increase from the $20,000 to the $50,000 max.
okay. Now, are we reducing maintenance? I wasn't clear.
So maintenance, government will still be responsible for their own maintenance because they have a public works department and they have staff to do it. Everybody else would still be eligible for the same maintenance grant, that 3 years.
Okay,
It would be an effective reduction though for a $20,000 project.
Potentially, yes. Because of the percentages, you mean?
Mhm.
Yes, yes.
Which,
I just keep thinking, I mean, when we were doing the EHAP stuff, it was like 40% of the watershed is lawns, so.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that we were,
If managers would prefer it to be 75% all the way down, that's fine too. It just, I mean, we go a little less far with our money that we have.
could do it like taxes, 75% of the first 20,000.
We talked about that, but one of the things we're trying to get away from
Okay.
is that complicated, because we said, yeah, up to 20,000, we'll pay 75% and then prorate.
I guess.
But if managers want to do that, I mean, it's not like we can't do the math. We would have to change the application and how they fill it out and calculate it, but we certainly could do that.
I'm willing to go with the staff recommendation because I believe you thought about this and came with the types of facilities you see in applications that this would best serve the watershed district. That's,
I just want to make sure it's incentivizing enough to get people to.
Yeah.
And that we get a good value for the project.
Right.
The maintenance is so key to that. That was what I was concerned about,
No, maintenance will be eligible for all except government.
which is a problem for government because
They have the staff to do it, yeah.
they don't necessarily have the money.
Correct.
That's the problem.
Correct. So that will be a different discussion as we go through our next capital plan, and our next is, do we want to take our operations and maintenance program and expand it to help out with things like that?
so would we need to amend the resolution to include that proposed change?
Mr. Smith,
You say let staff amended as
I
discussed.
think you can just say as amended in before the board. So what the question is, Mr. Smith, if they would need to amend the resolution to include what I just said.
Madam Chair, managers, I don't think the language of the resolutions refers specifically to these categories or dollar amounts. So it would just be specifically making the minutes clear that these changes are made and that the version that the board is approving by its resolution is the changed version.
So we get to our minutes discussion.
Yes,
Do
does.
I have a motion?
We had a motion in a second, didn't we?
We did.
Oh, we did. All right. All those who vote to approve the resolution, vote aye.
Aye.
Amended? Yep, yes.
No, he said not amended, just to
Yeah.
vote the
As,
resolution.
as staff recommended is the project, so to speak.
We got 4-0.
Is that a yes? Okay, aye, and aye. So 4, and none against. Motion passes. And the minutes need to reflect the change in the project cost share. Item 5, resolution 2025-024, authorize plan amendment for Round Lake alum treatment.
So I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution 2025-024 to authorize the administrator to publish plan amendment for the Round Lake alum treatment.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
So I have a question. Why is there discussion about the split between Hennepin and Carver County in this Round Lake, which is entirely in Hennepin County?
Because our ad valorem taxes are commingled, so we must state that this is how it's going to be paid for from our ad valorem taxes, and those taxes are 40% Carver, 60% Hennepin.
Got it. Thank you.
And I just want to identify, for the record, that we had a discussion of the Round Lake alum treatment during our workshop. So if you have questions about it, the discussion, a lot of our information was provided there.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just one quick other clarification. The resolution directs 2 public hearings at your next meeting, the hearing on the proposed plan amendment, as well as hearing whether or not to order the project. So we'll be addressing both of those hearings at the next meeting. And the resolution terms say that.
Yeah, the resolution does have that language.
But just our, okay. So we had a resolution in a second.
Motion
We
is
already had
second.
that. All right, so all those who approve to adopt resolution 2025-024, say aye.
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 Aye, and opposed, none. Motion passes. All right. Discussion items. Mr. Smith,
Don't believe we have any new updates on the cases at this time.
No updates.
okay, so that's item A and B. There's no updates. Item C, a discussion of the meeting minutes. As I briefly said when I put the agenda item is that our recent meeting minutes were very, other than the matters of public interest, I find them, which talked about Duck Lake, that had content in it. The rest of it was very much, we looked at this, we approved it, we had a second. And I think that we need a little more context to show we're doing our due diligence, that if we, as a new board member, I rely on at least those key words to be able to know that I should maybe go look at the YouTube video. I don't need a lot of discussion, but at least maybe the items that were raised.
I agree with you.
And my proposal would be that maybe Administrator Jeffries or staff would give us a couple samples of what something could look like, of what, I don't know,
So,
if there's something in between that we
Yeah.
can sort of vote on specifically of how to structure the content.
Vice President Nelson, managers, I think we could do a couple of things. We could, with our minutes from this meeting, just bring back a revised version that we feel meets it. Or 2 revised versions, and you could vote on one or another. My understanding from conversation with you and from looking at it myself is you're not looking for verbatim.
No.
And you're looking for managers discuss, okay, well, what was that discussion in general? What was it that they discussed?
Managers pulled 2 consent items and there was no indication of why they got pulled.
Right.
Or discussion that would beg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we can come up with, I think I know what you're looking for. Yeah. So
Another thing we could do is when we're discussing it, we can say, this is why I pulled it. Instead of, I don't know, I tend to jump to the finish line a little quick sometimes, but
We could help the minute takers by being more clear about items that could be queued to be put in minutes.
So when I was concerned about the gasoline underneath the gas station, yeah,
right.
I could say that. I had something too in terms of the minutes, in terms of the manager report. So, I mean, so, Manager DeVal talks about some of the places he goes, and I think just a mention of that, or that he was out in the community or something, would not have to be onerous. But the last time when we discussed, when I talked about meeting with the with the natural resources director for the Shakopee, the Waukesha Sioux tribe, and our discussion and the opportunity to go out and visit the cultural center and have a tribal person come in. And none of that was there. And I because there was a consensus of the managers that we did want to do that, I thought it made sense to have that listed under there.
Right.
Because it was something that we decided as managers that we would like staff to help facilitate that. So in that case, I didn't think that was real onerous, but I thought it should have been in the minutes
Yeah,
that
and
we
in fact,
brought it up.
in that it directed you. it gave
Action
you permission
items,
to-
I believe, should be in the minutes. Action items for staff, action items for the CAC, for the board.
Yeah. All right. I think I do know what you're after. Why don't we bring back, would you like me to bring a version? I think
I
I would
think
capture it.
I believe a version, we can agree, I can come up with some resolution, but I also I just lost my train of thought. So in the governance manual, it talks about that we send meeting minutes around like ahead of time for some input. Is that something we are choosing not to do?
So right now the minutes go to myself. You're getting copied on it from her. And Dylan and Mr. Smith. We tried doing it and some people would send me comments, some people wouldn't, and it didn't end up having the efficiencies we had hoped it would have, because we still ended up discussing minutes and certainly send them all around.
For me, it was, if there's an edit that I saw that I thought needed, as a professional organization, to be made, then I could just bring it up. And it usually didn't take more than 2 minutes to just say on page such and such and line such and such, something, either was misstated or we could correct it to this. I mean, it didn't take that long. I'd rather do it that way in the meeting if you guys don't think it's onerous, because otherwise that gets too complex trying to have everybody send comments or even have that process.
Okay, I'm thinking more of the discussion item. If we feel like to clarify it, that would seem to be something that should be done early on if there's something that we talked about versus at the meeting, because then that's not a simple correction, it's a discussion.
Yeah, we can do it either way. Yeah, just what we were running into was.
Oh,
We
and
were-
could have some very tight timeframes for
I
when
think part of it related to the fact that it was meant to be verbatim before, right? It was like a court document. Whereas now, in a lot of watersheds, they're kind of summary discussion points of the items that are discussed during the meeting. So maybe we haven't found the right medium yet to address enough summary of whatever is being discussed. I think that came out.
Well, I think regardless of what we do long-term, it makes sense to send these minutes to everyone,
Yes.
period. Because if we're trying to capture what we want it to be, this would be the one to have you all look at and say, yeah, I don't think that really captured what we wanted it to capture.
And we need to make a note to fix the bylaws, because we did make a decision to send them to everybody and have everybody send them back. And they were supposed to get back like a week before the next meeting. to give staff time to incorporate all the changes. So that when we got to the meeting and we were reading the board packet, we could say, okay, that's
Mhm.
exactly what we need. But it
Time
did,
wise, it was always,
it didn't work. Yeah.
It's a 30-minute exercise. But we can do it either way. These ones for sure, though, I think need to go. Because then I know that you're saying, yes, this is what I wanted to see in there.
This would be the time for us to have our input on the
Yeah.
extent or, yes, I agree.
sounds good.
Can I make do I make the resolution or does somebody else have to make the resolution for you to do this?
Is there a resolution?
I don't even know that we need a resolution for
resolution.
this.
Okay.
We're trying to,
I think we've,
This was a
given-
discussion, that's right. It was
Yeah.
not an action
Yeah.
item.
well, we've kind of given direction to staff as to
Yeah.
what we want.
yeah, I understand what the managers are asking and unless you don't want me to do it, I think I have all I need to move forward with it.
Okay. Manager council reports. Do we have any managers who
So,
have?
Manager Dwell and I talked to Representative Alex Falconer for District 49A. And he's an environmentalist. And he talked about being in favor of especially reducing the chloride and, anything that we might come up with as a way to reduce the chloride. And one of the things that kind of stood out was use in fertilizer. And I guess I'm not a chemist. I don't know why salt would be in fertilizer. But according to the MPCA, 23% of the salt they're finding in groundwater is coming from fertilizer. And why don't we get the state to make a law that there's no, you don't put salt in fertilizer?
It's
What
potassium
makes it
chloride, yeah,
accessible
is
to
what it-
the soil is.
Potassium chloride. And I think somewhere I read that it helps one of the other chemicals the plants absorb.
Right. It makes it
Something else.
accessible to the
Yeah.
plants in the soil, which is part of what makes it harmful,
Yeah, okay.
the salt. Yeah.
So do we really need it in fertilizer?
I'm not a
I can't
chemist.
answer that. Need is a whole.
But I guess the whole point really is more about, we've got a good representative for us in the state
Yeah.
House of Representatives that we feel can support most of what we're doing. I really like some of his online stuff showed him in canoes paddling around and stuff, which you can tell, and we should probably invite him. He did say something about maybe inviting him to a meeting.
He sounded very open to potentially coming to give a presentation, or if we had something that might be of interest to the state, he would be more than amenable to coming. He lives right off Dell Road. He was also an environmentalist that led the effort dealing with the nickel mining and the
Saw that. yeah.
PWCA. So he was one of the instigators of dealing with that whole process. So he's very attuned to what we are doing here. He's a freshman House of Representatives from our district.
Would the managers like me to
Some of your
invite him to a meeting?
Some of it.
I would think yes. It would be good to have something that's related.
An
to
actual,
Yeah,
But it's good to build that relationship because then when
Yes.
we go to make our asks,
but I
we've
know,
got
and
somebody.
maybe it's a workshop where you can sit down and eat and talk too.
yeah. And I know Representative Ream has also expressed interest in the work we do. She's your representative.
Mhm.
We've
The
talked
other-
about, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to Go to my second item.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. My second item was just, when I was reading the minutes, it said that staff was going to review the, I forget the acronym for the drainage law, or whatever. They were going to evaluate the outlet if we agreed to, as a watershed, agreed to maintain the outlet of Duck Lake if we put in one similar to what Barr recommended.
And that's going to be brought at the April meeting.
Okay,
We're gonna have a technical memo for the board at the April meeting.
okay. So I just wanted to make sure that in the notes,
Yep.
there was an action item
Yep.
of some kind.
Yep, so Engineer Sobiak and I have already met yesterday and discussed the memo and the content, what's gonna be in it. So that'll be
I
April.
think Manager Pedersen expressed that that should be a agenda item
Yep.
at the last meeting.
Maybe that's why it made it into the minutes.
Yes. It was an action item.
Okay, that's all I had.
Manager Ball?
Yeah, I have a couple comments. So I've been still working through the details of the monthly accounting process, Dylan and I primarily, and I've spent time with Redpath in terms of trying to, for me personally, to get a handle on how we do the process here. And I've spoke about it a little bit last time about all the hands that touch the data and go through. Still don't have a good answer for that specifically, but I tried to get back to Jessica Horde, who we met with at the Audit and Finance Committee meeting, talking about the quarterly treasurer report, extension of the 12-month rolling forecast, quarterly rolling 12-month forecast. And I think given what's happening nationally, I think it's going to be even more important to be looking at that sort of thing from a financial management point of view. So I think it'll add more, it'll have more bearing on what we're doing now than even we anticipated before, I guess is my comment. But I spoke with a new person because Jessica Horde was not available last week. Her name is Allison Hillman, and she's the head of the group at Redpath that deals with the sort of things that we're talking about right now, the non-audit kinds of things, where they provide services of analysis of how we do our accounting as well as other consulting services. But I talked to her about different reports that we might work into our system. We have this Sage, and I'm not sure what model Sage accounting system we have, but there are several different levels. And so I've asked her to come back to Terry and myself to come back with some suggestions of things that we might consider, again, to eliminate all the handling steps we have. It might streamline our process, give us more accurate records, and just make life easier. It is really a cumbersome process from my perspective. That's all I can say about it. It's just way too many steps involved. So anyway, she's supposed to be getting back to us sometime later this week yet. Somebody was out on vacation, but she's going to be talking with Bonnie Burns to get her viewpoint and discussions I've had with her. And so hopefully, maybe by the next meeting, we'll have some ideas on some different ways we might modify what we're doing. And Terry will be the one to bring this up. So, no. Okay.
You've done all the work.
That's-
I'm gonna steal your thunder.
Yeah, no, it's okay. So that's all I have.
Very good. Manager Crafton, you have any comments?
Not at this point.
So I thought of one other one with the electronic funds transfer. If we're changing companies, who does it?
Don't
Don't say
don't
anything.
bother, right?
Don't bother with this old one, you know?
I have two comments. One is I was pleased, so we get the Chanhassen connection. I live in Chanhassen. And I was pleased to see in the top 10 things to know in 2025, one of our projects made the list of the top 10 things in Chanhassen with all the work that is going on. So we've always talked about how do you toot your own horn. So we actually made the top 10 in the publication. Upper Riley Creek restored, being restored through a $3.3 million project to enhance the stream bed channel and floodplain. And it talks more about that.
Nice.
So that made our name in made the list.
Thank you, Joe Seidel. I'm sure he's the one that.
So I will do that. And
He's a good guy.
I just wanted to sort of put a heads up with the talk we had on chlorine from Lori, and then you just brought this with the manager, is that the University of Minnesota what was that? Water Resources.
Yeah, the annual water conference.
Yeah, the water conference.
Resources Conference.
Water Resources Conference. Just want to make sure. I listened to a presentation by Haley Sauer, and she did a postdoc researcher at the St. Croix Watershed Research Station with the Science Museum in Minnesota on lake salinity. And she said she'd be happy to speak with her, and speak with us, and she is on the September list to give this presentation to the CAC. And I just wanted to put it out there, so you put it on your calendar, and you could maybe let that representative know about that.
And the other person you put me in touch with, I'm meeting with
yeah.
her at the end of March. Her and Dan were out of the office, but we're meeting
Yeah.
again.
One of the poster presentations was really interesting, and I talked to her, and she wanted to work, maybe she's working with Washington County, also wanted to maybe work with us on kind of like a scoring process.
I talked to you a little bit about that, Manager Griffin, what are the ecosystem services being provided and missing, and how could you fill in those gaps? So
my attendance, I actually came out with a couple.
yeah.
So that was really interesting things going on. I just want to make sure you got that on your calendar, because that should be
When is that?
in September. And it was in their last minutes. It's on the bottom of things that are coming up.
Okay, okay.
You don't always look at it. It's in the CAC every time. If you look at the CAC minutes in our agenda, it'll be at the bottom of them. There are things that are happening coming up.
September 22nd.
Thank you.
Was that the 15th? That's the third Wednesday, so it'll be the 15th. Sorry.
So would we make that a joint workshop with
Sure.
the CAC?
Yeah, we need to have
All the managers, so we don't have
Makes
to.
more sense.
Anyhow, she really talked about like that turnover, and it helped it all kind of understand what's happening in the
idea.
lakes. It was really interesting. So I learned a lot.
Joint workshop.
That's a good scientific. Last time we were out there, it was on St. Croix area. They hosted the annual or the summer tour,
Oh, yeah.
and Josh and Michelle were there, and it rained like crazy, and Scott made you come back and do lake level. But that was a neat place. We were learning a lot. It was also like, gotta go.
Well, that was a very positive response. Thank you.
But I think it'd be great to have a presentation from that area.
And she was very engaging. That's also part of, not everybody gives a good presentation.
Yeah.
You did
So
the
I-
legal counsel report yet?
No. Do you have a report, Louis?
Yes, Madam Chair, managers, I don't believe that the board designated delegates to the special meeting of Minnesota Watersheds on March 21st. A special meeting has been called of the members to consider a bylaws change. I believe Manager Ziegler's familiar with this, and maybe we already did it at our February meeting and I missed it, but I was just checking the minutes. So this is.
We did do it.
We passed a resolution and set the delegates for that meeting. It'll be,
So
I
Yeah.
submitted the delegate form, and Terry even provided the
The minute might
resolution.
not
for
be
me.
we're good. Thank
We're
you.
on it.
you're right.
I don't think it made the minutes. We had a very truncated minutes last
Our
month.
alternate,
So maybe get that added.
Tom
That
Duvall was the
month
alternate.
Before, I think. We did the month before, when he was in San Diego.
Yeah.
Ah,
Oh.
okay, that's probably what it
Okay.
was.
Very good.
We acted on it.
Nothing
And-
else to report then?
Okay. And Maddie did say that she received everything.
Good.
Any other,
I am going to send an email to Ms. Forbes right now saying that September, we want a joint meeting workshop with the, okay, just want to verify.
so then we don't all have to say, I want to go and I want to go.
Right.
That's-
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, sorry.
I was gonna ask though, was there ever any follow-up with the, like, what Lakeville's doing in terms of, water reuse and maybe putting on a program that we hosted for,
Oh,
or something on that? I know I brought it up a couple times,
but
but,
you, I don't, can we, you and I meet and talk about it? I'm not sure what you want to.
well, it was part of the, I think it was a Bowser tour. And we were out there and I had some names I gave you, a couple of
That's-
them.
Not on the agenda, so maybe you should talk to him
Yeah, okay.
I can,
about.
I was just doing it under manager report.
yeah, and I can
Sorry.
bring an item.
We
No, that's all right. It was Lakeville?
Yeah,
Okay.
they were,
Right.
they're saving like $2 million or 2 million gallons at least a year in
Good.
runoff stuff.
All right. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Safe travels. Thank you.
Two.
I'm not exactly sure. It's like, I wasn't sure
Oh.
where to go with when we're not